And welcome back to Do More Good's ROI of Why conference. My name is Graham Pansing Brooks, and I'm the co-founder and director of Do More Good Movement, as well as the co-founder and CEO of Sea Change. We're thrilled to have you here with us today for the second day of the conference. We have another amazing lineup of speakers, thought leaders, and doers from around the country. While it continues to be strange operating in a virtual space, and we miss the energy provided for the event, we are really excited to be leveraging this platform. A few housekeeping items here. You'll see on the main screen in front of you the presenters and information around any slides that will be shared. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see both chats, participants, and Q&A. And so as we're going throughout the event today, feel free to chime in, utilize the chat. If you've got questions, put them in the Q&A, and if we've got time, we'll be sure to get to it. So just to start out, as we did yesterday, we have over 750 registrations, individuals from 50 states, and more than 80 countries around the world that have registered for this event. And so if you would, go ahead and put in the chat where you're signed on from, where you're coming from this morning. And would love to be able to see where everybody's at. We see India and Omaha, Lincoln. And so exciting to see people from around the country, Calgary, Canada, Indiana. And so really great to be able to see people zooming in from, joining us from around the country and around the world. Thank you for prioritizing this and being here this morning. We do have folks also streaming on YouTube Live. And so just know that we have a great contingent here on the Remo platform, but there are definitely more folks watching around the country and around the world as well. And so with that, I want to make sure that we set the stage for today. Today's conference is going to be hyper-focused on the impact that Do More Good is looking to have in the state of Nebraska, where we're coming to you live from, and the Midwest as a whole. Yesterday, Jay gave a variety of overviews around Do More Good initiatives and the work that we're looking to do, and we'll continue to provide some more updates and information on what you can expect from the Do More Good movement moving forward. And so today, in essence, serves as a case study, as you hear from Nebraska business leaders that are already leveraging their businesses as a force for good, whether through B Corp certification or just committing to community stewardship, environmentalism, team member engagement. And so we're really excited to be able to take this case study and continue to bring back more information over the coming years about how the Do More Good movement has been able to continue to impact our state and the surrounding region here in the United States. And so prepare for your minds to be blown. We've got another really great day. So even if you're not here in Nebraska with us, as we can see individuals from around the world, today's content is for you. So with that, I'd like to kick it over to our co-founder of the Do More Good movement and founder and CEO of Nebraska's first B Corp, Jay Wilkinson.
Thank you so much, Graham. And I would also like to extend my gracious welcome and expression of gratitude to all of you for joining us today. Whether you're on the Remo platform with us and in the chat conversation here, or watching this being streamed on YouTube all around the world, welcome. We're so grateful that you're here for part of this conversation, and we'd love to have you jump in and join the conversation however you see fit. And I want to start, speaking of that, by focusing a little bit on some of the takeaways from the amazing day that we had yesterday. I shared with Graham, and I shared a post on Facebook that I kind of had an out-of-body experience for a moment yesterday when our incredible panel, our board of advisors who represent the largest frameworks around putting purpose into business all around the world, the founders and leaders of Conscious Capitalism, Certified B Corps, 1% for the Planet, and then, of course, the registered benefit corporations that are now taking place in 38 states around the United States, and that list is continuing to grow. Our purpose at the Do More Good movement is to elevate all of those enterprises and all of those frameworks. We do not exist to create our own special, unique brand of a framework or approach on how people should do business. We're here to elevate the voices that are already there, the work that's already been done, and to amplify those efforts so that we can get the message out to more people. I made a point yesterday. Imagine if the CEO and or owner of every business in the world were focused on how to take their business and apply whatever methodology they choose, but apply whatever strategy methodology they choose to elevate their business, to do more good in their community, to take care of not only their employees, but also to tend to their communities and their network of stakeholders in general, their suppliers, their vendors, their customers, everyone that's involved in that. Imagine how much different the world would be if capitalism in general were a force for good in the world to elevate the people. It's a huge, gigantic focus that we have to try and make an impact, and we're dedicated to doing that. Yesterday, we heard from so many great and amazing speakers that it's hard to pin down, but I'm going to ask you, because I know there are many people here that have joined us today for day 2 of the ROI of Why conference that were here as well yesterday. And so I'm going to ask if you would mind sharing some of your takeaways from yesterday. What are some of the things that you heard that resonate with you that we should all be thinking about and focused on as we kind of cascade out of today and into the next weeks, months, years, as we are all working collectively to do more good in our communities? What were your takeaways? And so I'm going to ask, you can share in 2 different ways. One way you can share, if you're on the Remo platform, we would love to hear from you and actually share yourself on camera, to come on stage and join us for a moment. We're asking for people to share 30 seconds or less takeaways that you that have been resonating with you since yesterday. And you can also just go to the chat field and type them in. And for those that are on the live stream audience, you're able to see the general chat in the live stream, so you can kind of see what they're sharing. So either share it on as a message, or if you would like, just in the chat field, right? I would like to share on camera. So just if you type that in and share it with me, I'll call on you, and Graham will invite you to join us on the stage. And it looks like we have our first hand up, Adriana. If you wouldn't mind, Graham, inviting Adriana to join us on stage, I would appreciate that.
Good morning.
Great to see you, Adriana.
It's great to see you too. Thank you so much. It has been a fantastic conference. I enjoyed so much yesterday. So in 30 seconds or less, what I have been taking away from the conference, and it has been just percolating in my mind, is a couple of things. The first one is around this idea of subtracting that Prita talked about yesterday. I've really been thinking about how do we at Maxwell, as use that concept as we try to create solutions to level the playing field at work, as we try to create solutions so people don't have to choose between a fulfilling life and a fulfilling career. Use that concept. So very, very much, very powerful. And the second one, it's how can we collectively encourage more companies that are on the early stages, like we are at Maxwell, which we're a young startup. How can we encourage them and make them part of the movement so it doesn't feel like something that you have to be of a certain size or reach a certain milestone before you can be a part of it? So those are the 2 learnings from my perspective. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Adriana, so much. And by the way, you're getting several people reflecting that they agree with you. The subtracting, not adding, that was talked about quite a bit by Prita, is resonating with a lot of folks. So thank you again, Adriana. And Graham, if you could invite, looks like the next one to speak up was Alec Mcchesney. Alec, if you would like to join us, Graham's going to invite you to join us on the stage. And while he's doing that, I will answer your question, Dan McDonough. Thank you for joining us, by the way. Yes, all of the videos from yesterday's sessions will be made available to all the registrants of the conference. you'll get an email with a link to where you can go find not only the videos, but any of the saved content as well, like PowerPoint documents, things like that. Alec,
Yeah,
welcome.
absolutely, Jay. Thank you so much, Jay and Graham, for putting this on. I think the testament to how vital I see this as is you guys are getting me in my moving outfit as I'm moving from apartment to house right now. So that took up 15 of my seconds. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway is someone coming from an industry like journalism, where I really believe something like this and the Do More Good movement would be so impactful that these conversations are happening. And as I was kind of recapping through the videos last night, I actually have it pulled up, this quote from Lorna Davis: the reality is that once we acknowledge the reality of the challenges in front of us, whatever they happen to be, we understand that humans around us are capable of overcoming them. And I think that's just not a sentiment that you get in too many organizations, too many different industries. And so the more that we can do to bring that elsewhere, the more powerful this is really going to become. So I appreciate this conference in every way. And I'm already looking forward to the rest of this day and even looking forward to 2022.
Alec, thank you so much. Lorna also said, and I'm quoting, "When our mind settles and our heart opens, our real potential is able to flourish. As human beings, we are capable of doing anything." And I love that sentiment and how she shared that. Danielle says that everyone has 1%. Progress is not perfection. Do something every day that is scary. And Julie Uribe commented about Rita, who said, progress, not perfection. I love that as well. Kathy Kotwitz, keep a learning mindset, challenge assumptions, think about where it's better to take complexity away rather than add more. Again, that subtractive, not necessarily additive mindset is really important. And of course, the be a ladder, not a leader concept. Lynn Weinman loves that. I do as well. It's something that I've heard Preeta talk about before. And just the number of wisdom bombs that were dropped by Preeta yesterday is inspiring in and of itself, not to mention all of the other things. And then also, Rita said, the things you do for yourself are gone when you are gone, but the things you do for others remain as your legacy. So really, really great stuff from everyone. Thank you for sharing. That was really inspiring to me as we're getting started here with day 2 of the conference, to make sure that we are focused on the takeaways that are so important and how we're going to take this stuff that we're hearing and learning and instill it into the DNA, into the marrow of our bones, so we can change tomorrow and be a different person in terms of how we apply these concepts in our lives. And with that said, we're going to move into the morning session here. Graham mentioned that FireSpring, the company that I lead, is a certified B corporation, and there are now several certified B corporations in the state of Nebraska. FireSpring is not the only one. You're going to hear from them today, so I'm not going to jump ahead and talk about all of them, but I am going to talk about this one in particular, because even though my company FireSpring became the first certified B Corp back in 2014 in our state, one of the people that was most inspirational in guiding my path to even have the inspiration or the desire to become a certified B corporation is our first speaker this morning. Several years ago, I was leading a group of students through a process where I asked them to share their Mount Rushmore. I said, you have to exclude family members because we're all going to say mom, dad, grandmother, not everybody, but many of us. So excluding family members, who are the 4 people that have had the most influence on your life? And I asked these students to share their Mount Rushmore of influence, the 4 people that had helped form them. And then I specifically targeted them. We can have Mount Rushmores in everything. We can have Mount Rushmores as it relates to friendships. We can have our Mount Rushmore, in my case, of business influences, the 4 people that have been the most influence in terms of the way I lead and run a business. And after the end of the session, one of the students raised their hand and they said, Jay, who's your Mount Rushmore? And I hadn't expected that question to come. I led them through this process and then encouraged them each to write letters to those 4 people that they listed. And one of the 4 people that was on my business Mount Rushmore, the people that have influenced most my journey as a leader in business, was our next speaker. I'm sad to say that Tom was not able to join us live this morning, but he had other obligations that he couldn't miss. But we do have a brief recorded presentation from one of the 4 people on my Mount Rushmore of business leaders, Mr. Tom Henning, the CEO of Assurity Corporation. So Graham, let's go on ahead and roll the video of Tom, and I will go on ahead and step out here.
We're grateful for Tom and his willingness to send us a recorded his presentation today, and sad that he wasn't able to join us. But one of the things that I think really resonates with me about Tom's comments there is that commitment to intentionality, that underlying commitment, no matter how the times may perceive, no matter what challenges we're facing in the world, for B Corps and benefit corporations, that commitment is intrinsically embedded into the very fabric and nature of their organization. It's a commitment to a stakeholder mentality, and not just thinking about the shareholders and not just thinking about the quarterly reports. Thinking back to Rand Stagen's comments yesterday, it's a view of becoming a decader, of looking and perceiving ways to be able to think about the long term. And so again, Tom, thank you for your comments and thank you for being willing to participate this year. Before I introduce our next speaker, I started yesterday with a quote, and I'd like to start today with the same quote from Einstein. A human being is part of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affections for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. So traditionally at Do More Good, we ask our audience to provide a standing ovation when each speaker is introduced and upon completion of their presentation. In the absence of this standing ovation, please plan to direct positive thoughts and energy towards our speakers and let them feel our widening circle of compassion embracing them. Our next speaker today is coming to us from Norfolk, Nebraska. She is a co-founder, a co-owner of Dacos, and they are doing absolutely amazing things. Tammy, we're excited to have you here and present and talk a little bit about the work that you're doing as well as your upcoming book. It's not just about money, a practical guide to doing more good. Please give a warm welcome and expand our circle of compassion for Tammy Day.
All right, thanks, Graham. I'm not sure how I drew the short straw and had to follow Tom Henning in this presentation, but I will do my best to give you some information. As Tammy Day, I live and work in Norfolk. My husband and I own Dacos here, and we have about 60 employees that work at Dacos. Dacos provides revenue services for transportation companies across the United States. You don't have to remember that because that's not really key to what I'm going to talk about. But basically, we help transportation companies pay and get paid. We are also one of only 4, soon to be 5 B Corps in Nebraska. And I think we're a little different because we are the only B Corp outside of Lincoln and Omaha. So we are in a fairly rural community of Norfolk, Nebraska, here in the northeast corner of the state. So that makes us a little unique. And when I was thinking about this opportunity, I'm so grateful to be included in this esteemed group of Nebraska B Corps and to get to talk to you all a little bit about what we're doing here that I think is interesting. But I wanted to figure out, what can I do or talk about that's a little bit different? And I think what you might learn from me is that anyone can do good with their company. It doesn't matter how big you are, where you're located, what your actual products and services are. Anyone who wants to do more good in the world can do that. And I think the Dacos story helps you see that because, as I said, we're not in the metro, we're a fairly small company, and we don't have a socially minded product or service or customer base. I always joke when I talk to people and say we don't make vegan dog food or run a recycling service. We just offer billing and auditing for trucking companies, and most of them don't know what a B Corp is, and maybe they don't even care, right? So, but that is not what's important, because we have chosen to run our company in a socially minded way. And to me, that is what makes all the difference. How you go about doing your work and how you go about running your company is where I think the impact comes, because we can all do a little more good in the world, and this is just one more avenue for that. So how do you go about doing that? And I think Tom's presentation did a great job covering a lot of those pieces, but I'll tell you what's important to us here at DACOS. First, you have to create a genuine intention about doing good with your business. You know, I think Tom referenced the Simon Sinek why question. That is very important. And I think what is the most important part to me is that the why can't be about, oh, if I do this, maybe I can hire more people. Or if I do this, maybe I will have a lower turnover rate. Or maybe employees will like to work here. You know, in Nebraska, we often don't have enough people to fill the jobs that we have. And so while it's really intriguing and attractive to want to do something like this for those things, I believe that those are just outcomes of doing business in a driven way. They can't be the sole reason that you run your company as a force for good, because people will quickly see through that. And the work that you are able to do and the impact you're able to have will be much more superficial as a result. So figuring out what your true intention is and the really big picture reason you want to do more good with your company is a first step. I also think, which Tom did mention in some of his comments, is that the next thing you do is you have to figure out, how am I going to be all in? For us, we decided if we were going to do business with a purpose, our purpose at DACOS is to do good and be good, period. And we decided if that's our purpose, then we have to be 100% all in. We can't do it when it's convenient. We can't tack on a separate program. We can't do it if we have some extra revenue around. It has to be part of every single thing we do. Hiring, recruiting, our workplace environment, how we invest in our people, how we treat our employees. If companies claim to be generous and perhaps they donate a lot of money, but they have a toxic work environment or they gouge their customers, right? That is not doing good and being good in all things. And I think then, again, your ability to have an impact decreases because it is not infused into everything you do. So being 100% all in, to me, is important. And I think it's something that we continue to have to ask ourselves when we make decisions. How does this affect all of our stakeholders? And at the very least, it can't do any harm. And in fact, it should actually sustain and support and enhance all of the stakeholder outcomes and benefits. So being 100% all in. But I think the thing about DACOS that is different than a lot of things I read about around doing good with business is that our efforts are employee driven. So we, when we started our Do Good, Be Good efforts, we had a series of all company meetings where employees decided what they cared about, how they wanted to make a difference, and then how they would put that into action. So they created it, they own it, and they run it. And Brandon and I just try to stay out of the way as much as possible so that they can truly have an impact. And we do this because people own what they help create, right? You've heard the saying, probably, no one ever washes a rental car, because if you don't own something, you don't take care of it. And I think that really applies here. If employees are told by leaders or told by upper management, this is what we're doing, or this is how we're going to live our purpose, or here's the organizations we donated to, I don't believe that has as great of an impact as if the employees are the ones actually making those decisions and leading that charge 100%. And that can be difficult, right? Because, I mean, business owners, managers, CEOs, I mean, their whole job is to lead after all. And so giving up that control of something as important as a company's impact can be really difficult. But I just think it's critical. It's really worth it, because what I have found and what I truly believe is that the real power of doing business in this way is in engaging others in the process. When people have opportunities to do something like this in a real hands-on, genuine way, then they more deeply understand and internalize the power of giving back and engaging in the community. And they will model that for other people, for their kids, for their neighbors, for their grandkids. And then that circle of goodness just continues to spin faster and faster. And the ripple effects into the community and the possible impacts and outcomes on that good work just grows exponentially. So I do believe when we can engage the most people in the process, we will have the most impact. So I am just about done, but just a couple of quick things I wanted to add. So I know I said, of course, at the beginning that it can't be about how do we hire more people or how do we keep people working in our companies, even though that's something all businesses want to do. However, there are positive outcomes for the business stakeholder when you are putting that goodness into the world. And I just wanted to share some of the things that we've seen at DACOs in the last 4 years, in case that is some inspiration for you to at least start to figure out what that intention is and how to get started. So some of our metrics that have shown us that this doing good is a thing that people want to be a part of. We have our employee satisfaction has gone up from 71% back in 2017 to consistently in the 93% range now. And that tracks very specifically with our efforts to have employee-driven doing more good work here. The second thing that we have found, which is always interesting to people in Nebraska where there aren't enough people to fill all the jobs, is that we actually have a list of 234 people right now who have said they want to work at DACOs, and please let them know when we have openings. They know that when they work here, they get to be a part of something in a real way that is bigger than just having a job. It's about doing work and having a chance to really, truly make an impact in the world in a different way. We have 85 to 90 applicants for every position we have. Our turnover rate is 5% or less almost all the time. And we have a lot of longevity here. Over 35% of our employees have been here for at least 8 years, and we have many people who have been here for 20 plus years. So people stay because it's a place they feel connected and they can really have an impact and make a difference. Our community engagement is up. We have more people serving on boards, volunteering, working in the community, and we've seen people grow. Employees who previously may have been shy or reserved are seeking leadership roles because they've had a chance to really dig in and make something that has meaning. So even though it's not the reason to do it, there are many outcomes that happen if you drive toward being a purpose-driven company. So I just wanted to put those out there as I close. I think my time is up, but I just wanted to say, you know, anyone can do a little bit more good, and certainly the DACOs way is not the only way to do it, but it's an example of what's possible and some steps you can take to get started down that road and that path to purpose. So thank you. I appreciate being here. Please reach out to me with questions or comments in the chat, or I'm sure there are other ways we can connect. So thank you.
Tammy, thank you so much. It's always exciting and thrilling to be able to hear from you, and amazing to see that growth, especially of the individuals that are on the waiting list to be able to have a chance to work at DACOs. I think when we met a few years ago first, that list was somewhere around 70 or 80. And so to see that list growing to now 230, 240 is really remarkable. And once again, is a testament to the work that you're doing at DACOs, that you and Brandon are doing, and in the North Fork community and greater Nebraska community as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. And thank you for being a leader here in Nebraska and continuing to help move the needle on businesses and encouraging and amplifying that great work here in the state. Thank you. So before I transition to our next speaker, I think one of the interesting things to note here as well is, as we were listening yesterday to J. Cone Gilbert, I noticed a few questions about individuals asking about specific service industry. We see a lot of the B Corps nationally, the examples of B Corps nationally, oftentimes being product-driven organizations. Patagonia, New Belgium, Tom Shoes, Warby Parker, a lot of organizations that are product-based. One of the unique things about the B Corps here in Nebraska is that all of them are service-based. And so you're getting to hear a really unique perspective of organizations that are providing services that are leveraging their organizations to be a continued force for good. And so I'm excited to be able to introduce you to our next speakers, Ali and Justin at Physicians Thrive. Physicians Thrive is in Omaha, Nebraska, and we are really excited to be able to have them here talking about how they're able to leverage business as a force for good within their organization, but also how good can be a force for business and the work that they're doing to continue to provide opportunities for people around the globe with their organization, GiveSight Global. We have founder and CEO Justin Nabity and director of GiveSight Global, Ali Bandali. Please give a warm welcome and expand our circle of compassion for Justin and Ali.
Thanks, Graham. Really appreciate it. As has been mentioned so far, to do more good requires a major focus on purpose. And what I'd like to talk about is what fueled us to become a certified B Corp. It was something that we discovered here in the US, Tanzania, Micronesia, Trinidad and Tobago, Canada, and India. It's that passion is the universal language spoken in the world. Passion is the universal language spoken in the world. That's what I discovered 5 years ago after joining into the financial services industry, when I found out that doctors have a unique set of problems. They usually start their career with a mountain of student debt, and they get burned by employers through unfair employment contracts. The culture and leadership in healthcare is so bad today that nearly half of doctors plan to change jobs in the next 12 months. That's not surprising when only 5% of healthcare leadership are physicians who have real hands-on patient experience. Massive student loans and bad contracts leaves physicians feeling trapped. All of this led us to developing a passion to set doctors free through financial planning that starts with specialized contract review and negotiation. The more we embrace this passion to set doctors free from what holds them back, the more it attracted like-minded people to us, specifically an eye surgeon who invited us to join into his passion of setting people free from blindness. Did you know that 80% of worldwide blindness is avoidable? That about 1/3 of the entire planet has a vision impairment? All it takes is like 10 minutes, a procedure that within 24 hours, a person can get back to 20/20 vision after being completely blind. It was in 2017, while we were in Tanzania, my business partner and I, with the University of Utah, that we witnessed people who were completely blind get their vision restored. On this trip, our passion to set people free in the for-profit sector expanded to the nonprofit world. We traveled halfway across the world to provide care, which was incredible, but we saw firsthand the limitations of trying to export eye care. It's expensive, inefficient, and it can lead to a serious letdown. What I mean is that we had people coming lined up, hundreds of them, that wanted to get their vision restored, many that had blindness in both eyes. And they would get one eye fixed, come back the next day, and then they would be like, okay, what about my other eye? And unfortunately, based on where we were, the eye surgeons were like, we don't really want to operate on both eyes because of the risk of issues with recovery. Plus, it was better to help 100 people gain vision rather than only 50 with both eyes. It was for this reason that we had to come up with a better solution to cure avoidable blindness. It was during this journey that we became a certified B Corp, because we knew it would take a laser-like focus on aligning our business with purpose to provide the momentum needed to attract the right people and ideas to make a lasting difference. Steve Jobs once said, "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. They have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing that you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius because the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who usually do. This is the mentality that we had, which attracted Ali Bandali away from another eye care nonprofit to join our team because he feels the same way that we do. So much so that he secured a round of funding, $3 million from a venture capital group who is backing us, $3 for every one that we raise for our next project that is completely flipping the script on solving this problem. Instead of exporting eye care or throwing money at the problem, we have a model that funds entrepreneurs to start their own eye care companies to create a way for private businesses to solve this issue. Ali, why don't you tell us about the selling fish concept and what we are doing in India to give sight to over 500,000 people in just this one project?
Thanks, Justin. And thank you everyone for this opportunity. We're really excited to share with you the impact of the Do More Good on the NGO world. The analogy that we've all heard is that you give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. You teach them how to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. But we weren't satisfied with that analogy because we wanted to take it one step further. What if we teach people how to fish, but then help them sell that fish so that the whole community benefits? And I'm going to share with you the current project that Justin's talking about right now that we're underway in India. This pictogram actually demonstrates the project as a whole and the cycle that we're trying to create. What we're wanting to do is change the system in which we operate in the NGO world. And according to Jay yesterday, we're on the right track. What we want to do is socially amplify our entrepreneurial donors at each stage of the project, thereby creating a new system. We're trying to see the 2.2 billion people in the world with vision impairment, in which, as Justin mentioned, 300 million people who are blind, 80% of which is avoidable, as the market that we have access to, not as the overwhelming problem that is too big to tackle. These are people who can afford to pay for their sight, as well as those that cannot afford. So, let me walk you through our project in India. We're starting with our initial caring donors, but we don't see them as donors. We see them as investors initially. We set a financial target for each project, and in this case, it's $1.25 million. And once we're fully subscribed, as in any business, we move. What we've learned in many cases is that NGO hospitals make some money, but they don't make enough to capitalize and grow, and that's a significant frustration. So we created a hybrid capital debt plan for our projects. An NGO with a debt plan? Yes, we really want to push the envelope when it comes to what an NGO can and will do in the countries that they serve. We will provide the capital interest-free for the hospitals to reconstruct or construct if they're in the right location with the population around them to support an increase in their capacity. This hospital group in West Bengal has the ability to increase their surgical capacity by using $800,000 in interest-free capital to reconstruct their hospitals. But the debt plan includes the repayment of 40% of that back into the community as a reinvestment. And I'll talk more about that. But that's about $320,000 that's going to be reinvested back in the community over the next 10 years, equally at $32,000 per year. Now, as Jay mentioned yesterday, capacity is the key. They will scale year over year in order to make a generational change. This helps us avoid looking for funders who do not want to fund capital projects or projects that have construction involved. But this also satisfies the donors from an outcomes perspective, because if you look at the pictogram, you'll see that the number of surgeries, the people served, the people screened, match what kind of outcomes and outputs people are looking for. On an average of 11,500 surgeries that this hospital group does a year, this project will give them the opportunity to triple that to 20,000 more surgeries that they would not have been able to do each year had we not invested in this particular project. Over the 10 years, that means 200,000 more surgeries will be done. Now, if you look at the ROI on that, you take the $1.25 million and divide that by the number of surgeries, that equals $6.40 per surgery. The true amplification comes from the fact that we get to measure the economic impact that we're going to have on these particular communities. We get to target the gender inequity when it comes to vision impairment. This hospital group has promised to set a benchmark of 55% of their clients to be at least that when it comes to women and girls. We'll also measure the economic impact of these individuals going back to work and of these kids going back to school. There's also a social impact that we'll get to measure when it comes to the reintegration back into the community by these individuals. That is true amplification of a donor's dollars. But we're not going to stop there. The reinvestment of the revenues from this hospital can now take place annually. That $32,000 that I was talking about earlier, well, each year we will build 2 for-profit vision centers in the community itself. One could actually argue that the hospital is now a do even more good B Corp.
That's awesome.
We also avoid funders and NGOs that avoid funding for-profit projects. That just simply doesn't make sense to us. We now target for-profit investment. This gives us the ability to target employment inequality in the community as well by making sure that each vision center is staffed by an all-female staff, including 1 female optometrist, 2 community health workers, 1 data entry person, and 1 supervisor. Now, we did some studying around the vision centers in the market in the communities, and we found that over 1 to 2 years, these vision centers turn a profit of $6,000 per year. That's an incredible amount of money. What we're in essence doing is by working in the community, we're creating a cooperative within the market that already exists. This profit of $6,000 per year, ultimately resulting in $120,000 in 10 years from 20 businesses that have been developed, will contribute $120,000 into a community health fund. That health fund will then be managed by the Greater Alliance Hospital, as well as the community members, to fund primary health concerns within that community. Yes, you heard that right. They will use that money to then reinvest into projects that will help develop primary health issues and deal with those primary health issues such as water and sanitation, prenatal, postnatal care, immunization clinics for kids, all decided upon by the community. But now we've come back to the original cycle. We no longer have to go back to the donor for any reinvestment in this particular project whatsoever. This cycle should now create a financial well-being for the community to continue on in its own progress. In my final words, I just want to state one or two things. We are not social entrepreneurs whose business is to generate profit here to do social good elsewhere. We believe the social enterprise approach is not sustainable or long-term unless we as a hybrid NGO help build that profit center in the community by the community's own hands. We are wanting to build entrepreneurs and businesses out of the social issue. And we're trying to turn the social issue, in our case, vision impairment and avoidable blindness, into a sustainable financial opportunity for the whole community, thereby teaching them how to sell the fish and taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
Justin, Ali, it is truly remarkable to see what Physicians Thrive and GiveSight Global are working on together. Again, it feels surreal to be talking with you both, to literally be hearing your plan to cure avoidable blindness around the world. I think that's something that has been sought after and looked after as a unattainable goal for so long. And so to hear this example of a way to begin to create those sustainable cycles, to be able to find ways to exit out of the social issue itself and find a way to continue to build and create economic prosperity for individuals around the world is truly remarkable. So thank you both for the work that you're doing, and be sure to put in the chat ways that people can continue to collaborate with you. GiveSite Global website, or ways that they can get involved in the next campaign cycle and be a part of the great work that you both are doing. So thank you for everything, and proud that we can call you, that you call Nebraska home, and that we can call you dear friends of ours. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Graham.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, as we transition here to our final speaker for this segment, again, it's been really exciting for me to be able to hear from the current 4 B Corps here in Nebraska. We've heard from Jay Wilkinson and Firespring, Tom Henning and Assurity, Tammy Day and Daycos, as well as Justin and Ali and Physicians Thrive and GiveSite Global. And so now it is my pleasure to get to introduce you to our next speaker, Lynn Weinman, President and Chief Strategist at Kid Glove. And I have had the distinct pleasure of being able to work with Lynn as they are in the process of pursuing B Corp certification. And so it is wonderful, Lynn, to have you here, and exciting to have you sharing this stage as the future 5th B Corp here in Nebraska. So please give a warm welcome and extend our circle of compassion for the President of Nebraska's next B Corp, Lynn Weinman.
Thanks, Graham. And woo, I feel the circle of compassion, everybody. So thank you for those great thoughts. And first of all, I'm just honored to be a part of this great conference. Speakers are amazing. I've met some of the most interesting people at the networking gatherings, and Graham and Jay have been excellent hosts. So thank you all. And as Graham mentioned, we are right in the thick of our B Corp certification. So we're in that final verification stage, so close we can see the finish line. And so what I'd like to do today is really share our journey and answer your questions about the journey. I am not a B Corp expert by any means, so think of me as your friend in the business who's going through a similar situation that can maybe just help along the way. So for those of you that don't know, Kid Glove is a boutique marketing, advertising, and branding agency with offices in Lincoln and Omaha. And our brand, Kid Glove, is based on the notion that we treat people with great care. And that extends to both our own team and our clients. And we also tailor insightful brands and unique brand strategies for our clients as well. And one of our core values is love, which represents our passion for our work, our passion for our clients, our team, and our community. And our purpose is to serve organizations, both nonprofit and for-profit, who are doing good in the world. So a lot of what we're already doing aligns very closely with the B Corp certification. So, you would think, hey, it's a natural fit for us, but I have to tell you, early on, as we started marketing ourselves outside of the state of Nebraska, people asked us continuously, are you a B Corp? Do you have B Corp certification? And I was familiar with B Corp certification because I've heard Jay Wilkinson from Firespring talk many times, and they are Nebraska's first certified B Corp. So I'd heard Jay speak about it. I started to do some research since we'd been asked so many times. And I really came across 2 things in the beginning. And if you are looking at this process, you might have heard the same 2 things. But I first heard it takes a lot of time, it's a lot of work. And I second heard it's expensive. And so as an entrepreneurial, busy entrepreneurial founder, I kind of went, hey, that sounds like too much. I rolled my eyes, I put it on the back burner. But luckily, I was introduced to Graham. Graham mentioned that we get to work with him and his partner, Kyle Cartwright, the founders of Sea Change, a social enterprise advisory. And I found out that you could actually get some help with the process, which once again, I have plenty to do. I didn't really see that opening to say, I'm going to add a lot more time to my list to do this. But knowing they could come along beside us gave me the confidence that, hey, let's at least take a look at the initial assessment and see what it's all about. So our journey started really by sitting down with Graham and Kyle, and I brought in our COO, Catherine Warren, who is fabulous, and she manages our culture and our HR and our processes, all the things that I'm bad at, actually. So thank you, Catherine, if you're listening. We sat down with Graham and Kyle, and we went through the initial assessment. So the assessment is all online. It's on the B Labs website. And we broke it up into 2 sessions, 2 90-minute sessions, I would say. And then we had a little bit of homework in between, pulling things from our policy manual, digging into our financials, our sales, and so forth. But it probably took us a good 5 hours to go through that initial assessment. And I'm going to say it was really helpful to have experts walking alongside us on the process, because as you go through the questions are quite rigorous, and some of them you kind of have to have a gut check on, right? You are reading this question and you're saying, what does that question actually mean? What kind of information is B Labs looking for? And this is what we do. You know, where do we qualify on the scale here as far as putting our response in? So really helpful to have that sounding board to help you through. As we went through the process and we neared the end, we got pretty excited to see that our initial score was in the high 70s. And it made us instantly start looking at what can we do better to hit that 80-point threshold, because you have to score 80 points out of 200. And I think that's the power of the B Corp certification. We were instantly looking for, what do we have to do to get better to earn a higher rating? And, you know, we all have heard the saying, what gets measured gets done. Well, profit and sales are the easiest things for all of us to measure. And a results-oriented leader can really fixate on those numbers. What the B Corp certification gives us is that measuring stick for other really powerful aspects of business that maybe have been difficult to measure in the past. Governance, workforce, community, environment, even customer relationships are part of the process. Now, since the assessment is all online, they give you a fancy dashboard, they save your answers. Once you're done going through it and you're satisfied with your responses, the actual sending in of your application is very easy, right? And because we were in the midst of COVID, I mean, we did the whole process start to hopefully soon finished in the midst of a global pandemic. You know, the process took a little longer. I know B Labs, just like the rest of us, were impacted by, you know, the work from home and the pandemic. So it took a bit longer. I think it took maybe 6, 7, maybe 8 months from the time we submitted our application until we heard back from our initial analyst. So an analyst on the B Corp side will go through your application, your assessment, and they'll confirm that you actually have met that 80-point threshold. And, you know, a couple of questions will come up at that phase, and then they'll move you on to the verification stage. And so in verification, we're also working with another analyst at B Labs, And this is the phase that I would say is very, very rigorous. So we're probably 2 weeks into our verification stage, and a lot of really in-depth questions now to make sure that our answers are in fact true. And I think this is a point when we get into our recommendations that I would say that, would be really helpful to keep good documentation along the way, because at this point, we are looking back to justify responses to questions that we answered almost a year ago. And so keeping documentation along the way would be very helpful. So right now, I think it'll probably take us another week, maybe 2 weeks at the most, so a month for that verification stage to get everything turned back in, and then hopefully we'll be across the finish line and we'll have a big party and you're all invited, right? So I would also say that along the way, after we submitted our initial assessment, and while we were in the waiting phase, we did make the decision to go ahead and reincorporate as a Nebraska benefit corporation. And Graham explained this yesterday, and there's good explanations out there, but B Corp certification and being a benefit corporation are two different things. So we previously were a sole proprietor LLC, and now we are a Nebraska benefit corporation, which is also a step that takes some time. You will need legal counsel. We were lucky to have Lowell Brooks, if Lowell is out there watching today, thank you, who helped us along that journey. But one thing that's really great now is when people ask us, are you an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, we can proudly say, hey, we're a Nebraska benefit corp, and explain to people what that means and explain our commitment to social corporate responsibility. So that has been our journey. If I were going to give people 4 recommendations based on our learnings, I would really say start by finding a partner who can help you out. I know that there are many partners, Graham and Kyle at Sea Change, and they didn't ask me to say this, I'm saying it because they're fabulous. They have been immensely helpful to us. They've made the process easier, and I think they've kept us going at times when we may have stalled out because we got stuck or we got busy. I would say, I mentioned earlier, second recommendation is document the process. Keep good notes because the process does take some time, and you want to make sure that you're really clear on how you're answering those questions. And I think that would have made our verification process easier if we had kept better notes along the way. Much like Tom Henning and Tammy Day, I would say get your team members involved. We talk about our B Corp process. We talk about our purpose. We talk about our core values all the time at Kid Glove. And it really has been an opportunity to bring our team together and gives us that feeling that, we're really working together for something that's bigger than ourselves. And then 4th recommendation is just prepare. It's going to take some time. This is not the kind of certification where you answer a few online questions, write your check, push the button, and it's in, right? This is really a very in-depth look under the hood. I would say that anybody who has the B Corp certification, it is a definite testament to the fact that it is below the surface level core commitment on behalf of that company, its leaders, and its employees to make that happen. So one other thing I want to share, we had some unexpected outcomes from this process, and we're not even certified yet, and we're starting to see the benefits. But when we went into B Corp certification, really what we wanted to do is prove to the world that we have these beliefs and these commitments, because I think it's easy for people to say the words, to have the core values, to have that poster that people like to put up. And, we wanted to go beyond the poster and really make it a part of our company. We wanted people to know that. So the unexpected outcome, and this shouldn't be unexpected, but honestly, this is way more than a seal of approval. this process is actually making us a better and more successful company. So some examples. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you, especially since Kate Williams from 1% from the Planet is on the speaker panel. We only scored, I feel like I have to whisper this to you all, so please don't tell anyone besides the 750 people that are listening. We only scored 1 point on the environmental section of the assessment. All we could say is we recycle, and that only gives you 1 point. So we're not bad environmentally. We're not doing anything too terrible. We just had not been thoughtful or intentional about our sustainability processes. So now we actually have an action item. We are working on our sustainability plan. Our employees are part of that plan. We're looking at our environmental stewardship, and we're looking at how can we use our influence with the clients that we work with to help make an impact as well. And we're actually seeing that that is helping our recruitment process because, as Tom Henning mentioned, millennials, Gen Z, very interested in what you believe as a company, and our sustainability plan and our B Corp certification have helped us. Likewise, through the process, it became very obvious that we needed to formalize our policies on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Once again, it didn't feel like we were doing anything bad or wrong. We just had not been intentional or documented our processes. And as we have really gotten intentional about this, you know, we're actually increasing the diversity on our staff. We're increasing the diversity of our employee base, and that is really opening doors for us to new clients as well. Once again, we didn't get into this as a recruitment tool. We didn't get into this as a new business tool. If that's all you're looking for, I would not suggest you go down the B Corp path. But if you're really looking to be an organization that is committed to making the world a better place, I would say B Corp is for you. So, has it been a difficult process? Yes, absolutely. It is a rigorous process. Has B Corp certification, has the process itself recognized, we don't even have the certification yet, has the process itself made us better? 100 times, yes. And would I do it all over again? 100%. So I'm eager to take any questions people have if you want to put them in chat, or I am probably the easiest person in the world to find online. I'm on LinkedIn, Lynn Weinman, the only Lynn Weinman at Kid Glove, and that's Kid Glove without a V. Would love to connect and communicate with you online as well.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I'm going to jump in here as well because we are so excited to have you join the ranks of certified B Corps in Nebraska. I can't even tell you how stoked I am about that. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday is the rising tide lifts all boats. I'm a huge believer in our firms, FireSpring and Kid Glove, do very similar things for very similar clients. And I will say unabashedly, I'm so excited that Kid Glove is in the ranks of B Corps, or is becoming. And I love the fact that we're elevating that tide and raising it for everyone. And I'm going to echo a few things that Lynn just shared. When we first went through the certification process in 2014, our score at the end of the process after going through it was a score of 98. And we were really excited about that. And then fast forward to 2021, after renewing every 3 years, which is the cycle, we just renewed for another year. We hit 125 and puts us in the top 10% of the scores of B Corp. But it took us 7 years to get there. It was overnight. And the first time we went through the process, we too were just under the threshold of 80 and had to implement a lot of new policies and do a lot of things. It made us a better company. And so lots and lots of encouragement that I want to share with anyone that's listening in today. Consider the process, even if you don't go through the process or don't even intend to go through the process of becoming certified as a B Corp. at the very least, I encourage every organization, every leader to go to the B Corp and take the assessment. You can just search B Corp assessment, find that online, and there's it takes a lot of time to go through, as Lynn pointed out, but just taking that assessment, you will learn things about how to evolve your organization. As Graham pointed out in the comments here, B Corp is a journey, it's not a destination, and it never ends. We will never stop working on the process of becoming a B Corp.
Thanks, Jay. I'm a huge fan of yours. As a matter of fact, earlier you suggested you write a note to someone you admire. So watch for your note from me next week.
Thank you. That is so kind. So kind. Lynn is one of my marketing heroes. So thank you for everything you've done for our community in Lincoln and for the marketing world that I care deeply about around the region.
Too kind. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lynn, for joining us today. All right, I'm going to move into a real quick segment before we go into the next round of speakers and share a little bit more with you. For some of you who were here yesterday, what I'm about to share with you will be a recap of some things that we're doing as part of the Do More Good movement to make a difference and make a profound impact on the world around us. And I'm going to share my screen here for just a moment. Because I want to go through and touch on some of the things that the Do More Good movement is doing and what we're focused on, as Graham pointed out earlier this morning, first in our own backyard, regionally, nationally, and internationally, as we continue to spread the good word of how businesses can and should be focused on doing more good. And the first thing I want to mention and share is just one more time to acknowledge our esteemed board of advisors, the amazing humans that give Graham and I the guidance and support we need to really be doing the work that we do. And these are the founders and leaders of the most important frameworks around this entire sphere. 1% for the Planet, Conscious Capitalism, Certified B Corps, which we've been talking about. The founder of that organization, B Labs, is Jay Cohen Gilbert, and then Preeta Bansal. And of course, my dear friend, Tony Goins, who you're going to hear more from this afternoon as we get into a really great discussion around doing good in the state of Nebraska, as our case study that we're presenting today. Huge thank you to all of these amazing people that are helping us move the needle. I also want to pause for just a moment and extend the sincerest of gratitude for all of the people that have made it possible, not only to help make this event a reality, but also that have put time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears into the Do More Good movement as a whole. The people that you see on the screen, Sammy, Liv, Jala, Brophy, Lucas, Alec, Adam, Ashley, Aaron, Drew, Lauren, Samantha, Michael, Amelia, Cohagen, if his last name is familiar, that is my son, Michaela, Cole, and Shay. These are all people that have gone deep and spent lots of time, effort, and hours helping us make this event a reality. So if you see any of these people around, if you know any of these people, please send them a note of thanks and acknowledgement for their contribution to make this event possible. And I want to just take a special moment to recognize two people who have gone above and beyond. When you think about the MVP of a team, a league, whatever it might be, there are two people that have literally spent hours, late nights, early mornings, and just had to juggle so much to make this event a reality, and to, again, make the entire Do More Good movement a reality. And one of them is Drew Tucson, who, through his passion and wisdom, he's one of the co-hosts of the ROI of Why podcast, which I'm going to touch on here in just a moment. But he's also just an extraordinary human who has done so much good work behind the scenes on making this event, our website, and other things a reality. So thank you, Drew. And to Michaela. Michaela is the ringmaster of everything that you see and all of the efforts that have gone into herding Graham and I and all the other volunteers and the other people that have helped into this position and this point where we're here today and being able to deliver this content. This would not be possible without Michaela's work. So Michaela, thank you so much. You are deeply, deeply appreciated. I wish we were able to do this in person so we could pay you the proper respects of a standing ovation that you deserve. But we are extending our circle of compassion to you for all the work you've done to help us get here. I'm going to take a moment here and one more time review real quickly what the Do More Good movement is all about. If you've been hearing the speakers this morning, if you were here all day yesterday, you know that it's about a lot of things. And I'm going to start again by reiterating what it's not about, because sometimes it's easier to understand from that perspective. It's not about politics. It is not about religion. It's not about a marketing strategy. And it's not about pretending to be or do something that you're not. It's about all of those things. It's also not about a specific framework or methodology. It's not about aligning specifically with conscious capitalism or 1% for the planet or certified B Corps, et cetera. We advocate for any business to follow whatever path is going to lead them to become the best version of themselves, and to do that at whatever pace that they're comfortable going. As Lynn was talking about, it's not fast, it's not easy to pursue purpose in business at any level. We are agnostic to any specific methodology, and we're not beholden to any speaker, not to Graham, not to myself, not to any one of the people like John Mackey, who wrote the book Conscious Capitalism. John is a great friend to the movement. We love John, but we're not beholden to any one particular ideology, thought leader, or author. We believe that we are here to elevate all of the voices and to educate business leaders on all of the options so they can choose the path that is best for them, the path that leads them to stand for something more than just money in the pockets of the shareholders. So our purpose, as it's stated, is to educate, empower, and amplify companies and business leaders doing more good. And we serve business leaders and entrepreneurs, but we don't stop there. We also educate nonprofit professionals and educators and public servants, students, anyone who is in the mindset of doing more good in their communities. And we know we're going to be successful when we elevate the number of do more good companies that are in the United States and then eventually the world. We have goals to expand far and wide with the educational aspects of everything that we're doing. And a do more good company is any business that is already aligned with one of these frameworks that I just mentioned or has signed the Do More Good pledge. I'm going to come back and touch on that here in a moment. The bottom line is every business is on a path somewhere. You might be at the starting blocks. You may be wholly evolved, like a company like Patagonia, who also would share that they have not arrived, that they still have work to do. We will always have work to do. It's a journey. It's not a destination we're ever going to reach where we feel holistically satisfied that we are doing everything we possibly can to do more good by using our business as a force for good. And we specifically are focused on supporting the 4 frameworks that I've mentioned, going all the way back to 2002 when 1% for the planet was created, to 2010 when legislation was created for benefit corporations. These are the movements that we're most focused on supporting. We are doing this support, this education, through educational workshops. We are going to be going in person to communities all around America, partnering with chambers of commerce and other business groups to help educate business leaders and put them through a workshop that will help them decide what their path to purpose is. We're going to be doing those both virtually and in person. The ROI of Why podcast, if you haven't already subscribed to that, new episodes have already dropped. We are dropping the new season, and you'll see a lot of new content showing up there over the next several weeks. That podcast is hosted by Graham Panzine Brooks, my esteemed partner in the Do More Good movement, and Drew Tucson, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, and they kill it. They've done interviews with tons of thought leaders across the spectrum of Do More Good companies, and I'm really excited for you to plug into that. We will be sharing weekly live streams through the Do More Good movement channels on social media. We are building the world's largest social enterprise library of case studies and ideas and best practices that empower business leaders to do more good. We want to be the go-to place for the repository of information, and we're asking for your help on that. If you have stories or things to share with us, please go to the website at domoregood.com and upload those. We've launched Do More Good Publishing. The first author in our series is Tony Goins. He wrote the book Something in the Water. It's a fantastic read, and we're really excited to dig more and to amplify more voices through that aspect of what we're doing. And then, of course, I mentioned this as well. We launched our Directory of Fellow Travelers. There are more than 50 frameworks and organizations that are focused on doing similar work. Our objective is not to reinvent the world, not to create our own framework. We want to be an elevated expression, the ability for any business leader to learn about all of the different frameworks and choose the path that is best suited for their journey. And so in so doing, we're in the process of building podcast interviews and really understanding at a deep level all of these fellow travelers so we can adequately educate business leaders about these things. I want to finish with two things real quickly. Number one, I'm going to ask for a favor of everybody who's participating today to consider the possibility of supporting the movement by becoming a partner of the movement. The partner program, which you can access on our website at domoregood.com, it lays out the benefits on the website. You can go and read through that. By becoming a partner, by an individual partner for $100 a year, or by becoming an organizational, a business partner for $250 per year. You have discounts to all of our educational events and conferences. If you're a business partner, you have the permission to use the partner badge on your website, promoting your organization as a Do More Good business. You'll be listed on the website, including a logo and a custom profile. You'll be recognized in all of our educational events as a Do More Good partner. You'll also have premium access to the Partner Resource Hub, which will have a tremendous content and material from the thought leaders that are part of our network, and many additional programs that are underway in development. Our request is that you consider an individual partnership of 100 or an organizational partnership at 250. Now, on top of that, if you're interested in supporting the movement at a deeper level, we have several other organizational levels. We already have supporters at a business level of all of these additional movements, from $500 to $50,000 or more in terms of annual commitments. And we'd love to have you join us for that if you can. You just go to domoregood.com, click on the partner link, and sign up right there. We would be deeply grateful. This is the only way, this and the conference registration, which is really priced to break even on our conference. We do not make money on our conferences. Clearly, this one was free. But the only way we're sustaining the educational work that we're doing is through that partner program. So that's our only way of really sustaining the movement and to financially support it. Lastly, we have announced the dates for the 2022 event, May 4th and 5th of 2022. So please put that on your calendar. And if you are so inclined, join us in person. The middle of everywhere, Lincoln, Nebraska. It's a great place to come, learn, and play. Our 2019 event was a huge, huge hit for all of those that came in from around the United States and around the world to join us. Please consider joining us for that. Drop it on your calendar. And if you go to the website within the next day, so by the end of the day tomorrow, you can register at half price off of what the full rate will be for next year, which is $149 for in-person registration and $39 for a virtual ticket. And a reminder on that, the price increase will go in place at the end of day tomorrow. So you have till the end of the day, and it's fully refundable. If you put it on your calendar, you pay, and you realize later in like a couple months from now that it doesn't work for your calendar, you can just essentially cancel your registration, or even after the end of the year when we need to begin planning and giving numbers to our conference folks, it's fully transferable. So you can transfer it to anyone else in your organization. So with all of that, I am going to invite Graham back to the stage to join us so we can move on to our next segment. Thank you so much for taking a moment to learn more about what we're doing with the Do More Good movement. And Graham, why don't you take us away into the next segment of our agenda?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jay. And thanks again for walking through all of this. It's a pleasure to be able to work with you on all this and the entire Firespring team. This event would not be possible without all of their help. And so we're so grateful for your leadership, mentorship, Jay, and the guidance, support, and engagement from all of Firespring. So again, as we're getting towards the end of the event, we can't say enough thanks to our volunteers, and particularly Michaela and Drew, who just went above and beyond. They are complete and total rock stars. So again, please, if you see them around, tell them a great job on all of this, and give them thanks. Our next presenter, we're gonna dive right into the next session here. Up next, we're gonna hear from David Orrick, VP of Sales for Better Culture. And Better Culture is on a mission to make the world a better place to work by designing products that help organizations build and protect their culture. So please give a warm welcome and expand our circle of compassion for David Orrick.
Thanks, Graham. I am just going to share my PowerPoint here. All right. Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. Well, thanks so much, Graham. Thanks, Jay. It's great to be here with you both today. Nice to kind of follow up that overview of what is a very important movement you all started here. So I'm excited to be a small part of it. I will try to keep it at 10 minutes here. I just set my timer, so I'll kind of hop into things as well. So yeah, as Graham mentioned, I'm David Orrick. I'm the head of sales for Better Culture. We are on a mission to make the world a better place to work, which we're very fired up about. I'm going to share with you some insights about how we're trying to take on that very ambitious goal today. Want to also give you a few tips that you can take into your organization or into your role. And then I want to close with sharing one real big idea for how we think we can actually convert this from just something you put down on a piece of paper to something that we think we can actually help deliver on. So first, I want to give a little bit about our story as an organization. So Better Culture's story actually started in the early 90s at a separate organization called QLI. It's also an Omaha-based organization. It's a world-class brain and spinal cord rehabilitation facility here in Omaha. One of our co-founders, Dr. Kim Hogeveen, was also the founder and CEO for 23 years of QLI. And the reason I give that background is that it has become a place where people send their family members who've been affected by significant brain and spinal cord injury from across the nation because of how excellent it is on the clinical side. What it also is it's an exceptional place for customer service. It's an exceptional place for low staff turnover, about a third of the industry average. And what underlies all of that is the fact that it has an exceptional culture. QLI was recognized 5 times as the #1 best place to work here in Omaha. And so what was behind that, again, was Kim's leadership and his commitment from the very first day that culture was going to be their focus. And in that, he's a unique leader in the space of culture, in that he's a psychologist in terms of his background, but one who also understands the practical challenges that CEOs and executives face. So about 10 years ago, Kim stepped out of his role at QLI, and he was started to get approached by businesses, leaders, CEOs across the city and across the region who were interested in saying, okay, QLI has this exceptional culture. How can we potentially bring that into our business? And this led to a high-end leadership training and consulting firm called Mindset that helps organizations recruit, build, attract, and retain talent. We do that through assessment and through other supports that we provide to organizations, leadership training, consulting, et cetera. So Mindset has been around the last 10 years and continues to have a big impact locally on organizational cultures. But shortly before COVID, but certainly accelerated by COVID, there was this thought of, okay, we're doing all this work with companies in Omaha and surrounding areas. To what extent could what we're doing be more on demand? So how could we provide more on-demand video training to help organizations really move the needle on their culture? And that is what led to Better Culture. Better Culture is a new brand, just launched in 2020. Again, digital first. We're providing our proven content and process for improving culture into more of a scalable business. So again, this is where our big mission comes from, and I'm going to try to make the case today for why this is an important mission. Again, share some insights that you can apply to your work, and then one big idea for how we think we can really make an impact. So that's my agenda. Why culture? What are the challenges, and sort of what's ahead? I will say, I just want to pause here and say that a lot of, to kind of think about who's viewing, and so much this conference has been about, there's been culture mentioned several times, even in the opening remarks, I remember it being mentioned so many times. So I don't think I'm convincing you on the why side, but I do think that there's the challenge that often people say people are our number one asset, and kind of buzzy terms like that. But how do you actually deliver on that is a real challenge for a lot of organizations. So I want to try to give you a little bit more tooth around why culture can be so impactful. So first, I'm going to start with just kind of a general slide. I think this is, again, something I probably don't have to convince many people on this video about, but possibly. Whether or not you have a strong culture affects your financial results. It affects employee turnover, and it's going to ultimately affect what your customers experience with your business. And so this is something that, again, it's sort of somewhat understood, but it's worth starting with the point that, or with the fact that we're not just doing this altruistically. We really believe that your bottom line of your business hinges on the quality of your culture. But to try to bring a little bit more tooth to that, Better Cultures developed what we call our leadership loop. And this comes from 20 years helping build this truly exceptional company culture at QLI. And then the last 10 years trying to transfer that approach to organizations that have a desire to improve their culture. This leadership loop is interesting from a couple standpoints. First off, there's one bubble that's missing, and that is that at the end, if you start with business success and work backwards, all of these things that lead to business success hinge on having a healthy organizational culture. And I would go even a step further to say, you can't have a healthy culture if you don't have leaders that prioritize culture. And so all of our work revolves around trying to help leaders have a better lens through which they can view what are the steps that I can take to really truly build a place that can help attract, motivate, retain the best talent in my industry. One other thing I'll call out on this one, the raving fans one to me is really interesting. I think a lot of times when you think of raving fans, you think, oh, well, they had such a great product that everyone talks about it. But in order to, even if it is a great product, that's really your differentiating point, oftentimes it's the quality of staff who focused relentlessly on making that a quality product that really sets it apart. And oftentimes it's also the support that goes along with the product, regardless of how good a product actually is. So want to touch on some of the challenges that we commonly hear. And these are just a few of them, not to be comprehensive, but in terms of building urgency within organizations, a lot of people can nod their head about the slide about data, but it's hard to actually take action. Having a clear vision and clear action steps you can take. For everyone on the call, I won't be able to take on all those individually, but one really good starting point for any organization is to clearly to be a leader in your organization. I'm going to pause for just a moment so you can take these in. These are our 7 principles of leadership, and these were what were underlying QLI's success in terms of its culture, and it's the centerpiece of what we support other organizations to accomplish within their organizational cultures. So I just want to challenge you on this slide. If I were to go around your organization and ask, what does it mean to be a leader around here? To what extent would I get really clear answers that cut to the core of how significantly impactful it would be if you had an organization where leaders protect the right of good staff to work with other good staff? And I'm just picking one as an example. So our 7 principles are pretty powerful. But what we really think is powerful as we're looking ahead as an organization is how we can actually support organizations to adopt those principles. And I'm going to throw one big idea at you today. I'm just going to scratch the surface. We're actually doing a webinar about this on May 27th. Would love to have anyone join. It's free. So, and you're actually going to hear directly from Dr. H himself. So he'll do a much more justice than I can, but I'll try to take a stab at kind of piquing your interest in this. So the idea of a chief culture officer is something that a lot of organizations have already taken on, but this is our real path to purpose as an organization. We believe that the chief culture officer role has the potential to be world-changing. Having a single person who truly owns and is responsible for culture in an organization is the single trait that our top-performing clients have adopted over the years. Now, chief culture officer does not necessarily mean in title. It can potentially be in title, but it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't necessarily mean adding a new role. But it does mean that you simply have to have someone who owns culture. And the way I will try to connect that back, if you go into most organizations and say, who owns finances around here? Who owns technology? Who owns sales? For every one of those roles, you have someone who owns it. If your organization is going to get serious about prioritizing culture, having someone who is the person you can answer that question to about culture is a really critical first step, but it's insufficient. We have learned that there are also 4 keys to setting chief culture officers up to be successful. And those are that they need to have knowledge, tools, support. And the 4th is that they need to have power within the system. All 4 of those things, there's a lot of nuance to them. Again, I won't get into those in depth. That's actually the topic of the webinar on May 27th, but reach out to me as well if you'd like to learn more about that. We feel like there's this real opportunity through this role, and those are the 4 keys to it. Last couple points here. We have learned that getting CEO buy-in about the chief culture officer is something that we can uniquely support someone to take on. So if you're passionate about culture and just want help building buy-in within your organization, let us know. We think our real challenge on this is that the word chief culture officer has the potential to be a fad before it was ever really well implemented. And so we're on a race against time to say there's a way to do this and to do it in a way that does it justice and allows it to be the world-changing role that we think it can be in so many organizations. So I'm going to close with that. I have a image there of our webinar coming up on the 27th. Again, Kim will be leading that, and you can see my email and our website right alongside. So thanks for your time today. Great conference. I'm honored to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, David. We really appreciate you being here and presenting, and it's exciting to get to hear about all the work that you're doing from, and getting the history from QLI to mindset to better culture now. And so thank you for continuing to make and prioritize culture within the workplace. And we are excited about that big idea and finding a way to continue to help support and pursue that journey together. So thank you.
Thanks, Graham.
Our next presenter, Alec Mcchesney, serves as Vice President of Community Development and Corporate Philanthropy for First National Bank and is President of the First National Community Development Corporation. We're really excited to have Alec here, and so please give a warm welcome and expand our circle of compassion for Alec Mcchesney. Alec?
Thanks. Thanks for having me, Graham and Jay. I'm excited to be here today. A couple of kind of leading indicators into these comments here. ROI of why, and then this section here is really around doing good in the good life. And so, kind of want to talk about how we try to demonstrate that and bring that to life. At FNBO, we believe we've been FNBO, by the way, is First National Bank of Omaha. It's the organization I'm affiliated with, and we believe we've been doing good in and doing good for the good life for more than 160 years. We are a closely held, majority family-owned community bank. We're the largest privately owned bank in the country, and we have community banking values and community banking principles. We are headquartered right here in Omaha, Nebraska, and we serve communities throughout the state of Nebraska, as well as communities throughout a number of the other states in the Midwest region. When it comes to this kind of social impact mindset, there are a number of stakeholder expectations, and they're evolving and getting more complicated every day. And so this concept of ROI of why is, for us, has been more important than ever. And so today I want to share with you how we measure ROI in order to demonstrate our community impact, and most importantly, how our community impact has an impact on our company. I want to first spend a few minutes talking about our stakeholders, and there's a few of them. The first and probably one of the most important ones are our customers. This first point, I don't think I need to speak to so much, but I'll mention it just because it's worth mentioning, is a high percentage of customers look for and expect some type of social mindset in the companies that they do business with. When it comes to banks, there are a couple of other unique attributes that we have to